All right. Thank you all for coming this morning. Um, this is our last official week of the Summer of Love. And here is Reverend Bill. We'll keep it short.
Well, that's good. I asked for a
You
brief,
said short, right?
non-flattering introduction, and,
You
and
got it.
basically, that's good. That's good. My wife would have approved of that one. But yeah, that's it. And here he is. All right.
Short and
So
sweet.
this week, for those that are following Self-Realization Fellowship or Ananda or Hamsa Yoga or any of these organizations that incorporate uh, the great avatar Babaji into their temples. Uh, then this week is the week that he's being honored, and so I I thought I would explain a little bit about Babaji because he's first introduced in 1946 to the Western world through Autobiography, Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, the book. And in the book, it basically paints a real low profile of somebody that's unbelievably much more than you realize. But Yogananda was under the restraints of coming from India, trying to deal with American public in the West, and we're in the West, everybody's worshiping Jesus and all this kind of stuff. And he wasn't going to come in and introduce this guy at the level that he should have been introduced. He introduced him at a level where people would accept it and believe it, but he alludes to much more. And when I met Yogaraj Gurnath and had some private conversations with him and helped spend months with him working on putting together the book Babaji Lightning Standing Still. So I got some information down, watched him get information download, put it in the book about it. But I also had some private time, between writing the book and just sitting around the ashram for 3 or 4 months. So I had a lot of personal questions that were answered without me even asking. And so I have that. And I also have my personal connections that I've had experiences with Babaji that I can talk about, and that's the only ones I will talk about. There's a lot of mystical things and spiritual things, sacred things. And if you go to India and Tibet and these different places, and most of these gurus and teachers, they will tell you that when you have these sacred things happen, exposing them to the world in general sometimes takes away the energy and the blessing of the experience because people judge it and they doubt it and they have all kinds of opinions on it unless you're told directly by some saintly person or not person. So uh, to share these things, and that's a fact, you're allowed to, then you do those, but you don't exceed that. So therefore, I've had 4 experiences with Babaji that I do share, and I have shared on video, but the experience is much greater and much more happens, and my understanding is much greater. I'm going to talk today just because I think people need to know the basis of what Babaji is. Because most people live in this world where they say, well, he's a great avatar. What does that mean? Well, there's a lot of great avatars. There's a lot of ascended masters. This is so much more than that. And all the great ascended masters, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, all these people, who was their teacher? Who was their guide? Who was their guru? Babaji. All the great ones went through Babaji. Babaji, when he came into existence, nobody knows. But when this world was created, the earth, this ball of volcanoes and lava and, all this stuff going on here, Babaji, this was his assignment to take this earthly plane and help it evolve, bringing human spirits down here and then evolving the spirits and evolving the planet itself. And that's been his domain, among other things he does. But the earth is where he's been doing his work. And that's why he's been there to teach all the great saints and sages from all times. He's deathless because he's never been born. Some people will say he came in a certain life. They'll try to say he was here for this time, that time. Whether he was or not, he chose to come in those times. I'm not going to argue because I don't know. But I do know he's always been here in this material creation of the earth. And he's going to remain here until this earth is dissolved. He has, in the Bible, you read in Revelations, they talk about, 130,000 or 140,000 or whatever it is, people that are going to go, to heaven in the end or something. There's some number they throw out there. Well, in some circles of yoga, when I was in India, people were talking about these are basically people that are directly helping Babaji. These souls would be there to help usher everybody in. Whether that's true or not, I don't have personal knowledge, just repeating what I was told. But I do have personal knowledge is Babaji is so much more than just the avatar. And you don't have, when you meet Babaji, there's no conversation, words being exchanged. It's a melding. If you're a Star Trek fan, you'd say it's a mind melding, right? It's like, you don't have a question because you're in front of or in the presence of all the answers. And when you're sharing that space, you are that space with Babaji. There is no difference. You couldn't be in that space if you weren't vibrating with him. That's why not everybody sees him. You got to be able to be vibrating with him. And so he has to bring his vibration down, perhaps, and he has to bring yours up. But when you're vibrating at the same, you can see him, and you can have this exchange, conversation. I haven't had a conversation, but I've had knowledge downloaded. I've had love downloaded. Or it's like when you have one of those experiences, your soul itself is upgraded. It's like McDonald, operating system 2.0. Now it's 5.0 after that experience, right? Or 10.0, right? You're upgrading your own operating system. And every time you have one of these encounters, there's no other word for it, encounter, this blessing, there's even more download. There's more upgrade. There is no questions. You don't come away with questions. And at the highest levels, you know the answers. Even if you can't recall it in the human mind, and you can't recall it to type it on a computer or speak it out in words or tell the story, your heart has all that. It's downloaded. It's there. And in deepest meditations, and even in deep sleep, it's there, and the awareness is there. I'm going to tell a couple stories just because I've been authorized to do so. Gurnoff, for one, authorized me to tell these stories, but I've also got authorization from several others, including people that remain nameless, because every time I got an authorization, I didn't want to tell it because I thought, well, and then after enough times, it was like, no, you're supposed to tell these stories because they were so sacred. So the first time I had my nose amputated off, let's go to that. For those that didn't know that, this nose has been cut off 3 times. And I went home, the nose was amputated. I had no nose, it was just a big hole in my face, and I had bandages, and it was bloody, and they take a thing and they burn all the edges so the skin doesn't bleed. It sounds more fun than it is, so don't worry about it. So I go home that night, and the local shots have all worn out from the surgery. And they sent me home with this big bottle of pills. I don't know, one pill from another, but these were the kind that everybody gets addicted to, the big, huge 500 milligrams or something. But they were the big ones. It's really bad pill. And the guy says, "Oh, you're going to need all these pills." I said, "No, no, no, no." So I get home and it wears off, and my face feels like it's on fire. It's like my face is being held on a barbecue grill, and it's grilling my face. It's just like, and and I go, "Well," my wife's going, "Are you going to take a pain pill?" I go, "Well." So I took a half a pill and I put it in my mouth and I got a glass of water and I just was swallowing. It was still in my throat when I had the thought, I don't need this. I got Babaji. The pain went away. Before that pill could even get into the abdomen to dissolve, chemicals do the thing. It was already just with that thought that I had Babaji. I didn't have to worry about the pain. It was done. And so I I was so bloody and a mess, I was sleeping in a separate room and separate bed because I was just, nobody wanted to be around me. And so I go to bed and early, and then I get up because I'm just soaking wet. I'm just soaking wet. I go, my God, I must have been crying. My pillow's wet, the sheets are wet. I go, what's going on here? So I go downstairs. I tell my wife, I said, man, I don't know what's that. I said, I must be a real wimp. I said, I was crying in my bed. I guess everything's wet. She goes, what? So she goes up there and she comes down with this laundry. The pillowcase, the sheets, the bedspread was all blood. It was like soaking wet blood, right? She goes, you've been bleeding. And I go, oh, thank God. I thought I was crying. Of course, she thought I was nuts when I said that. In my world, I'm not going to cry. Bleed? Yeah, bleed. Grown men bleed, but cry? No, no cry. No cry. Bleed? Yes, no cry. So I finally go back to bed, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, Lord Shiva's hour. That's the most holy, sacred time between about 3:15 and 4:15, right around that 4 o'clock-ish time. You get the best meditation, best prayers, best healing, best thoughts. Everything comes that 4 o'clock hour. I think in India they call it Shiva time. And that's the time in the morning that's just open. It's quiet. The world's quiet where you're at. Sun is not up yet. I'm laying there and I got bandages all over my face. And the room's lit up. I got one eye closed, it's got a bandage on. And the room lights up and it's so bright. It should have been blinding to me. It should have been like the sun is just, and I roll over and I look at the wall. That's the wall right behind that bookcase on the other side. I mean, just 5 feet away here on the other side. The entire wall is a sunburst. It's like this orb that's a sunshine. I don't know what to call it, a sunshine orb. It's just with the flames of light just coming out of it. It's just beautiful. I'm not excited. I'm not in awe. I just look at it like, yeah, I expected that. Yeah, of course, there it is. And I'm feeling love, 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 just embracing it. And then there's this naked arm, no sleeve, no shirt, no nothing, just a naked arm comes out of that wall, and the hand goes across all my wounds. And it was like a million grandmothers. I've used that expression many times. I always use it when I'm talking about love beyond capacity, right? Love at the highest level. It's just vibrating, a soft vibration in my spine. My heart was just inflamed, which is the word, inflamed with love. It was like, never felt it at that level. And I've had near-death experiences, so I said, I'll never feel greater than this. I did feel it greater than the near-death experience love. And that's the all-time greatest. I didn't think it could be topped. This was topped because it was supercharged. It was like my body was plugged into an electrical circuit and I was just getting charged. And my kundalini, the spine was just going, just kind of humming along and I'm just feeling great. I have no idea if it was 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 2 hours. I have no idea. It just was on. And I'm loved. I never had one question. I didn't ask, who's this arm? What's going on here? Who are you? Why is this? Nothing. Just, I deserve this. I'm here for it. It's happening to me because it's a gift. I've just taken it and I'm one with it. I'm one with that arm touching me. There's a connection between me and that orb, vibrating sun orb. And then it's gone. And I felt so at peace. Now, finally, I get up and I go because my wife is driving me to get surgery because I got a hole in my head. I need a nose, right? They thought it'd be kind of nice if I had a nose put back on there. So I'm going for plastic surgery. And I had a meeting with this guy before, and this doctor wanted to do all these procedures and stuff. And it was going to be like one of 3 or 4, up to 5 surgeries to fix this. And so I go there. My wife goes, the doctor comes out and says, well, I want to know what you're going to do to my husband first. He says, well, I'm going to cut the forehead down to a triangle here. I'm going to take all the meat off the forehead. It'll just be bone there. And then I'm going to flip it over upside down and I'm going to sew it onto here, but I'm going to take parts of your ears to give it some structure. And I'm going to take parts from other parts of your body and I'm going to build it up. Then I'm going to cover it with this, except your forehead will be raw, have to grow new skin. And you'll have this hump where it's folded over. It's like a little elephant hump here. And then we'll have to have surgery in a few months to take that off. And then we'll have to have another surgery to kind of heal that out. Then we got to fix the forehead. Went on and on. And he says, don't worry about it. He tells me why. Don't worry about it. I planned this thing last night. I spent an hour, had a picture of my face he showed her with graphs, little chart, little squares. He goes, I'm going to do this here, there, I'm going to stitch this. And he says, don't worry. I've been doing this over 30 something years and it works. I got it. I got it planned. It's exactly what I'm going to do. So I leave. I'm being wheeled out of surgery a few hours later. And my wife looks at me and she gets all upset. She goes, where's the doctor? I want to talk to the doctor. So they go get him. I'm going, I can't see myself, right? I just got paid. I go, oh my God, it must be worse. What happened, right? So she tells the doctor, she says, what'd you do? You didn't do what you say you're going to do. That the forehead, you didn't touch it. And he says, here's what's strange. He says, I've been doing that operation over 30 years. Same surgery, same technique, never changed. But I went in there and I had the scalpel in my hands and I had an inspiration. And it was like, I'm going to try something different. Out of the blue, I decided to try something different. That's what he tells my wife. I want to do something different. And he went to my shoulder and he took a big chunk of flesh from my shoulder and sewed my shoulder on my face and, restructured this and that and did this. Right. And he says, I don't think we'll need another surgery. That's it. He says, you didn't have to cut his ears? Nope. Didn't have to cut his forehead? Nope. I just took it from one place. And so I went home and he gave me a big bottle of pills because you're going to need these when the locals wear off. And I go, no. I took them home, didn't need them. No pain came. The next day, 4:00 in the morning, who could imagine what was going to happen? Yeah, me. 4:00 in the morning, the room lights up with a blazing light. It's lit up. And the arm stretches out from this blazing orb and just holds my face. 100 and some stitches, whatever it was in my face. And it's just holding it, loving it. And same experience, and it fades away and everything. 10 days later, I go back to the surgeon to get the stitches out of my face, 128, I don't know, 100 and some stitches, all over the face, around the eyes and everywhere. And the surgeon's really upset and he's having trouble. And I go, what's wrong? He says, I've never seen this in my life. I said, what? He says, I operated on you 10 days ago, right? I go, yeah. He says, all your skin has grown over the stitches. Now, anybody here in the medical field, you can't grow skin a quarter of an inch or a half inch in 10 days. But all the skin had grown over, and so he had to clip skin to pull out the stitches. The next day, I get a call from Gurnoff, who was in San Francisco at the time. And he goes, Beal, can me and my wife come over and see you today? I go, yeah, sure. Yeah, come on over. So he drives 3 hours from the Bay Area and he comes up and he shows up my house and he gives me this. He says, I brought this for you. It's a, I don't know if I've told this part of the story before. And he gives me this bottle of castor oil. And it was half gone. It's his personal castor oil that he used for scars. He says, I take this and I put it on my scar tissue and it heals it. That's good enough for me, right? So I'm going, great. So I put the stuff on there. And then the next week, I'm at a wedding, which I had canceled. I didn't think I'd be able to go to it, but it was a wedding in Napa Valley, wine country. And Gurnoff was there to bless the marriage. And I was sitting at a table with a bunch of people from his organization. I'm just sitting there, keep my mouth shut. And he looks over at me and he goes, Beal, you got to tell him the story about what happened the other night? And I go, oh, no. He says, that wasn't a dream, wasn't a vision. It was real. You got a visit from the big boss. Now, if you've been hanging around Gurnoff long enough, he calls the big boss Babaji. That's Babaji's called the big boss. He says, tell him the story. So I tell the story. I had 9 people at the table. I had to hear me tell the story, but he started off and explained to them already. He already knew the story for some reason. And so I told the story, what I just said. And that's when I knew I had permission because he told me to tell the story. So that's why I tell that story. And then when I was at the ashram, prior to this, I was in India at the ashram, and we were sitting around a campfire that evening, and Gurnoff went to bed early, and a bunch of us stayed up late. There was this old rock and roll guy that was there, and there was some other people. And they were talking about experiences in their life where they've done drugs and seen crazy things, or they've seen ghosts and they've seen devils and they've seen all this stuff, and they were scared of this and that. And everybody was gone. It was just a few of us there sitting by this fire. And then me, big mouth, sitting at this ashram, go, nothing scares me. I'm challenging the universe. Nothing scares me. Been in war, been shot, been blown up. I've seen ghosts. I've seen demons. I've seen the devil. I've seen it all, right? I've seen it all. So I just challenge the universe. Nothing scares me, right? So we go to bed that evening, and I go to the bungalow, and I opened the door to this bungalow, and I got it by myself. I opened the door, and they're sitting on my bed facing me with laser eyes that are shooting like a laser light out at me. It's Babaji. No shirt on, loincloth, no pants, no shoes, long black hair, that wet like skin. And it's just looking at me with that, like, nothing scares you, huh? Those dagger lasers just coming. And I got a flashlight in my hand, and the flashlight goes up in the air, and kind of like that movie 2001 Space Odyssey, where it flips around, where the ape throws the bone up in the air. Kind of goes, and it spins around, and my heart's going like this, And then I shine the flashlight, and it just fades away. And then I go, oh, thank God nobody saw that, because I just bragged at the universe that nothing scares me. I've just seen this beautiful being, and it scared me, and nobody knows. I'm good. So I'm going to the ashram kitchen the next morning for breakfast, and I hear little footsteps behind me, catching up behind me. I turn around, screwing off, all 5'4" or 5, whatever he is of him. And he looks at me and he goes, Beal, I thought those things weren't supposed to scare you. So we get in there at the breakfast, and he's got all the guys there at the ashram, about 20, 30 people. And he goes, makes me tell the story. He folds his arm. He says, okay, General, never afraid of anything. Tell him what happened last night. So then I had to tell the story. And So the other time I've been authorized to tell about is when I just had open heart surgery, had a near death experience, had all kinds of neat things happen, and had predictions in my naughty palm leaf reading that I'd have an encounter with Lord Shiva as Babaji, that I'd have a encounter sometime that year, in fact, 2011. But I thought it was just wanted to be one of these metaphysical things, like, Anyway, I'm about 3.5 weeks in the hospital, having real problems with this heart surgery, and I'm going to leave the next day. And I'm laying in bed, hospital bed, and at the foot of the bed, up all the way over me is like a dome of energy. It's light. It's like you took a salad bowl, clear glass crystal, and you put it over something, except this is huge, covers the whole bed. And there's like light and electricity inside of it. And I'm in the bed, and it's a long bed. And I look at the end of the bed, and there's this in person. At the time, I thought it was a dream or a vision, but it was a real deal, in person. Babaji. Except this Babaji had no shirt on, no shoes on, long black hair. But this Babaji, since it's in an American hospital, has got Levi's on. It's like, come on, I'm thinking, well, it must be on weird drugs. Babaji's got jeans on, so whatever. And he's reaching all the way across that bed. Now think about the bed; it's about 7 foot long, right? His hand just goes very naturally all the way over to where I'm at, and he puts his hand, blesses my forehead, and starts sprinkling oil and some kind of water. And he's chanting in this foreign language. I have no idea what it was. Foreign language, some kind of Indian language, ancient one. And that's just a guess. I have no clue. And it goes on and on and on. I'm just blissing out and thinking, well, if it's the drugs doing this, or if I'm crazy, it's a nice dream, but I'll never be able to share it because there's no witnesses. Nobody. I just look crazy if I tell this story. So I'd let it go. So I'm home a couple of days from the hospital. My daughter comes to me and she says, "Hey, Dad, David says hello. He visited you at the hospital, but he didn't get a chance to talk to you." I said, "No, he didn't visit me." She says, "Oh, yeah, he was there. It was Thursday, whatever day it was, day before he came home." And I said, "No, he wasn't. I didn't see him." He says, "Oh, yeah." He says he went in there and he saw you, and he saw this crazy young Indian man with no shirt on, no shoes on, long black hair, sprinkling oil and water and stuff on your forehead, chanting some crazy language. And he thought it was so funny, and he was embarrassed for you that he didn't want to laugh. And he saw it and he left. And I'm going, oh, there's a witness. Somebody did see it outside of this bubble. So I share that story because there was a witness. So that's 4 experiences that I can talk about. But know this: once you've made that connection with Babaji, you're plugged in. It's like plugged into a wall socket, except you don't need to be plugged anymore. It's like energy coming through the air. It's like an airdrop on your phone, right? Airdrop, right? So you get the downloads, you get the uploads, you change, and you find out that the essence of what Babaji really is. They can have all the arguments about who he is, what he is, and all that. All that's theoretical stuff. It doesn't matter. But the powerful love that Babaji has for this planet, that nurtures us, and for those of us that choose to vibrate closer to his level, we will feel. You want to see Babaji? Change your frequency, change your vibration. If you got hate in your heart, hate for yourself, you'll never see that frequency. It'll elude you. And don't go chasing anything. Seek first the kingdom of God within you. That's love. Love yourself. Everything else, just be given to you when you're ready. So honor Babaji this week. honor Babaji wherever you're at all year, because this week it's all in the now. So Babaji Day is every day, right? So I just thought I would share that because a lot of people don't fully understand the impact. They think, it's just an avatar. No, no, much, much more. I could go into deeper, but I can't. It's much more deeper. It's much more heavy. So blessings and peace to you. I thought I'd share that.